Why fans hated Game of Thrones Season 8 full breakdown. Game of Thrones is one of the most influential and widely discussed television series of the 21st century. Over 8 seasons, it captivated audiences with its complex characters, intricate political plots, shocking twists, and willingness to defy conventional fantasy storytelling. From the very first season, viewers were drawn into a world where moral ambiguity, survival, and power were the core themes. Characters like Tyrion Lannister, Jon Snow, Arya Stark, and Daenerys Targaryen became cultural icons, and plotlines were analyzed and debated extensively online and offline. However, when Season 8 premiered in 2019, the fan response was overwhelmingly divided. What was expected to be a grand, satisfying conclusion to years of narrative buildup became a lightning rod for criticism and disappointment. Social media exploded with complaints, petitions circulated demanding a remake, and longtime fans expressed their frustration over perceived inconsistencies, rushed storylines, and unearned character arcs. But why did Season 8 provoke such strong negative reactions? To answer that, we need to break down the season in detail, examining storytelling, character development, pacing, production choices, and audience expectations. The first major factor is rushed storytelling. Seasons 1 through 7 were celebrated for their intricate plots, careful foreshadowing, and attention to detail. Plot threads were allowed to develop over multiple episodes or even seasons, giving viewers time to understand character motivations, world-building, and the consequences of each action. Season 8, however, consisted of only 6 episodes to conclude a story that spanned nearly a decade. This meant that narrative arcs which had been built meticulously over 7 seasons were condensed into rapid-fire storytelling, leaving little room for proper exploration or justification of major events. A prime example of rushed storytelling is the treatment of Daenerys Targaryen's character. Over the course of 7 seasons, Daenerys is portrayed as a liberator, a ruler committed to ending oppression, and a figure whose moral compass is consistently highlighted. Fans understood her as complex but fundamentally driven by justice. However, in Season 8, her sudden descent into mass destruction, burning King's Landing and killing thousands of innocents, felt abrupt and unearned to many viewers. While hints of her ruthlessness existed in earlier seasons, the shift to full-scale tyranny happened over the course of a single episode, leaving little narrative justification. The result was a character arc that seemed inconsistent with her established traits, provoking frustration and accusations of poor writing. Another area where rushed storytelling created dissatisfaction was the handling of the Night King and the White Walkers. For 6 seasons, the Night King was built up as an existential threat, a seemingly unstoppable force symbolizing death and the consequences of human hubris. Viewers were promised an epic confrontation that would resolve one of the series' most central mysteries. However, the Night King was defeated in a single episode by Arya Stark, using a stealth approach that, while dramatic, felt abrupt to some fans. Many had expected a more extended battle or a resolution that tied into the broader mythology of the White Walkers. The rapid conclusion left audiences feeling unsatisfied, as years of build-up seemed to evaporate in minutes. Closely tied to rushed storytelling is the issue of pacing. Previous seasons excelled at balancing political intrigue, character development, and action sequences. Season 8, however, oscillates between frenetic battle scenes and compressed political resolutions, giving viewers little time to absorb or reflect on the events. For instance, the Battle of Winterfell, one of the most anticipated sequences in television history, featured a dark, chaotic cinematography style that, while visually striking, made it difficult for viewers to follow the action. Important character deaths and heroic acts, including those of Theon Greyjoy, Jorah Mormont, and Melisandre, occurred with minimal narrative impact due to the breakneck pace. This disorientation contributed to fans' sense that the storytelling had lost the careful craftsmanship of earlier seasons. Character development inconsistencies are another key reason for fan dissatisfaction. Game of Thrones had long been praised for its nuanced portrayal of characters who acted in accordance with well-established motivations, even when making morally ambiguous choices. Season 8, however, saw several characters behave in ways that contradicted prior development. Jaime Lannister, for example, returned to Cersei after years of transformation and personal growth, only to die in her arms as the Red Keep collapsed. While his return was foreshadowed to some extent, the speed and lack of exploration of his internal struggle left many fans feeling that his arc was truncated and emotionally unsatisfying. Similarly, Bran Stark is abruptly elevated to the throne despite minimal engagement with political strategy or leadership, raising questions about narrative logic and payoff for his character. The treatment of Jon Snow also drew criticism. Jon is portrayed as the moral center of the series, someone burdened with responsibility, loyalty, and honor. In Season 8, his arc culminates with him killing Daenerys to prevent further tyranny, a shocking but arguably necessary act. However, some fans felt that Jon's agency was diminished by circumstances that pushed him toward this outcome, and that his leadership potential was underutilized in the political aftermath. The compression of his arc and the limited exploration of his inner conflict reduced the emotional impact of a decision that should have been a defining moment in his character journey. Fans also expressed frustration with logical inconsistencies and plot holes in Season 8. While Game of Thrones had always embraced some suspension of disbelief, previous seasons balanced fantasy with strategic logic. In Season 8, certain events stretched plausibility in ways that undermined the narrative. For example, the speed with which Daenerys' forces reach King's Landing, the tactical decisions during battles, and the rapid fall of Cersei's defenses seemed inconsistent with previously established military strategy. Similarly, Bran's sudden ability to influence events through omniscience felt underdeveloped, leaving viewers questioning the coherence of the narrative's rules. These lapses contributed to the perception that the final season prioritized spectacle over internal logic and character consistency. The handling of major plotlines and prophecies also fueled dissatisfaction. For years, the series hinted at significant narrative threads, including the prophecy of Azor Ahai, the importance of Jon Snow's heritage, and the ultimate threat of the Night King. Many fans expected resolutions that would be satisfying, complex, and layered with symbolism. Instead, several storylines were concluded hastily or subverted in ways that felt anticlimactic. The Night King's defeat, Jon's parentage, and the resolution of the Iron Throne conflict did not receive the depth of exploration many viewers had anticipated, creating a sense of narrative whiplash and disappointment. Another factor is audience expectations shaped by 7 seasons of intricate storytelling. By the end of Season 7, fans had developed theories, predictions, and emotional investments in certain outcomes. Season 8 diverged from many of these expectations, not necessarily in unpredictable or subversive ways, but in ways that felt inconsistent or underdeveloped. The disconnect between fan anticipation and narrative execution amplified dissatisfaction. Moments that should have felt triumphant, shocking, or emotionally resonant instead elicited frustration, leaving viewers feeling that the payoff for years of engagement fell short. Production choices and directorial decisions also played a role in fan dissatisfaction. While the season featured high-quality cinematography, visual effects, and intense action